Well, good day. This is Florin High's network and folder system. Hey, you see that little blue square there? You know what that is? Can you see it? That is your computer. Looks pretty lonely out there. Your computer's probably in a room. Maybe it's in room G2, maybe it's in G1, maybe it's in G5, maybe it's in the library, I don't know. But your computer's probably in a room with lots of other computers. On the back of your computer there's a little plug back there. It looks like this. And it's not called a plug. It's called a port. This is called an Ethernet port. This is your connection out to the network. It's called a port. A port is called a plug is called a port. This is the Ethernet port. The Ethernet port is connected to this network interface card, and you see this is the plug right here. Can you barely see it? There it is, there it is. On the inside of your computer is all this green stuff, this big circuit board, and this whole big circuit board is called a network interface card. What do you call this little thing on the outside of the network interface card? Yeah, that's the Ethernet port. The Ethernet port is part of the network interface card. Every computer has one, and you plug a cable into it. So on the back of your computer there's a cable. It's called an Ethernet cable. That cable could be a yellow cable, could be a blue cable, could be a gray cable. The color doesn't matter. It's an Ethernet cable. On the other end of it, it goes to a big box that has lots of little plugs in it, but we don't call them plugs, do we? We call them ports. So it goes to a big box that has lots of ports on it, and that box is called a switch. And a switch is not something that looks like this. No, this is not the switch. A switch looks like this. This is a network switch, and it's got lots of ports in it, so the computers can connect to it. Not only does your computer connect to the switch, all the computers connect to the switch. Every computer has its own individual wire that goes down to that switch. It looks a little complex, but it's organized. G2 has a switch. G1 computer lab is set up the same way. The G5 computer lab is set up the same way. The library is set up the same way. The career center is hooked up the same way. In fact, all computers on the whole campus, even if they're teacher computers all by themselves in a room, they all connect to a switch. Not only do all the computers connect to a switch, but all the switches are connected together like this. So now all the switches are hooked together and all the computers can see each other. There are two special computers in the G-Wing office, and they're called servers. There's the Wahoo server, used mostly by teachers, and there's the Yosemite server, used mostly by students. The Wahoo server has an Ethernet cable that goes to a switch. The Yosemite server has an Ethernet cable that goes to a switch. Now all the computers can see each other through this switch system. There's one more piece of equipment used in our network. It's down here, and it's called a router. A router looks sort of like a switch. It's not really a switch, but it looks like one. It's got ports on it. And this router is connected to one of the switches. Doesn't really matter which one, because now all the computers are hooked together. This router is our way out to the internet. The whole school shares one connection out to the internet through one router. Looks like this. Now students cannot just log in from any computer. Students are not allowed to sit or log in to a teacher computer. On the Wahoo server there are user accounts. Users are to allow you to log in. Each user has a username. Students have a user, and their username is their student ID number, all 8 digits. Teachers have a login, but they don't use numbers. They use their login name. But students use their ID number. You have to type in all 8 numbers for your login name. If your name is Kelly Clarkson, you cannot type in Kelly Clarkson. No, that's not going to work. You got to type in your student ID number. That's your name now on the computer network. Let's zoom in on this Yosemite server. It's the one used mostly by students, and find out what's on it. So on the Yosemite server there are lots of folders, but I'm not interested in all of them. I'm only interested in about 3 of them. There's an assignments folder, there's a Dropbox folder, and there's a StuDers folder. Let's find out what these 3 important folders are for. The first one's the assignments folder. The assignments folder is a place where the teachers can put files in, and students can copy those files into their own personal folder space. This is a place where teachers can distribute files out to students. So if I have an assignment for you to do, I'll put it in the assignments folder. You can take it from the assignments folder, do whatever the instructions say to do, and then save it into your personal space. You won't be able to delete files that are in the assignments folder, but you can see them. The Dropbox is kind of the opposite of the assignments folder. This is a place where you can put things in. and then I can see that you've done work. So perhaps if you have a test or something, I'll say you can put it in the Dropbox. I don't use the Dropbox very much in this class, but if I do, you'll know it's there. It's a place where students can turn things in. You turn things into the teacher by putting them in the Dropbox. The last one is the Stu-Ders folder, and the Stu-Ders folder has subfolders. It has 4 subfolders, one for each of the graduating classes. Inside each one of these subfolders, there's a whole slew, hundreds of folders for students. If you're going to graduate in the year 2011 or 2012, there'll be a folder for you. Hey, you remember what that thing is? Do you see that little blue box? Do you remember what that was? Yeah, that was your computer. And your computer's lost and lonely out there. It wants to go out to your folder. What if this is your student number right here? Oh my gosh, if this was your student number, your computer's going to want to connect to that folder that has all your stuff in it. How is it going to find it? Your computer doesn't know where it is. It says Yosemite. Where's Yosemite? I don't know nothing about Yosemite. When they first built personal computers, they built a series of pointers into each computer, and that series of pointers has letters to designate where the pointer goes. The A used to point out to this thing called a floppy disk drive. Do you remember this? They used to have these things called floppy disks. I don't know if you remember that stuff. That was a long time ago. The A is a pointer that would point out to this floppy disk drive. The B would also point out to a second floppy disk drive. The C points out to the local computer's hard drive, and it still does. That C is still used to point out to the local hard drive inside your personal computer. The D often would point out to the CD-ROM drive, and the E might point out to your flash drive or something like that. Well, the people who invented networks, they looked at this and said, hey, there's a lot of pointers down here that nobody's using. If the local computer isn't pointing to this hardware, maybe I can use these pointers to point someplace else. And that's exactly what they did. Here at Florin High School, we take the H as an example, and we point it out to your folder. So now when you go to the H drive, you're not looking at your computer anymore. It's not inside your computer. The H drive is your pointer that points out to that Yosemite server, the Yosemite server that's back in the server room in the G office. You should always save to your H drive. You should never save to your local machine. Hey, let's do a little review. Hey, look at that. It's a rear view mirror. You see that? It's pretty cool. Students cannot log in from a teacher computer. You can't even sit at a teacher computer. If a teacher is logged in and they ask you to sit at the teacher computer, tell them you can't do it. You're not allowed to. Your computer has a network interface card. And what do you call this thing on the little slot here? What is this little port called? Ethernet port. What plugs into the Ethernet port? Ethernet cable points in. Where's the other end of the cable go? If one end goes to the NIC card, where does the other end go? The other end goes to the switch. Switch looks like this. Our system is set up, looks something like this. All the computers can talk to each other, and they're all connected out to the internet through a single connection. When you use your username, you can't type in your real name. You have to use your student ID number. There's 3 important folders on the Yosemite server. There's the assignments folder, the Dropbox folder, and your personal folder hiding under Stu-Ders. The H drive is your way to point out to that one. Always save to the H drive. That's the one that has your number on it, not your name. There might be a folder someday that has your name on it. Don't look at that one. That's not the right one. You want to look at this one, the one that has your number on it. Well, that's about all there is to it.